Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me start by reading some quotes with regards to safe supply and the diversion into criminals' hands. March 12th of 2024, the government House leader said that widespread diversion was, quote, simply not true. February of this year, Mr. Speaker, the Premier questioned this, saying, quote, if it is happening. February of 2024, the provincial health officer said, quote, diversion is not in itself good or bad, or right or wrong, end quote. The government's own leaked report has shown that this information, that these statements are false. Will the Premier stop gaslighting the public? Will he admit his government has been misleading the public on this? And will he enact a public inquiry into the safe supply scandal?
So again, this is where I want to chat in, like a public inquiry. Like these are just questions that they have to ask as politicians in this assembly, but like it won't get done. Like these questions are kind of absurd. Like I don't want to say anything negative about Rustad. You got to ask them because that's your job, but it won't get done. Like what he's asking won't get done.
Honourable Premier.
We've lost 16,000 people in this province to the toxic drug crisis since it was declared. It's fathers and mothers and sisters and brothers, colleagues, friends. And the consistent message that has come to us from people who've lost loved ones is do whatever you can to try to help keep people alive, get them into treatment so they can rebuild their lives. And it's advice from family and friends like that that resulted in the prescribed alternative program to get a nurse or a doctor between someone struggling with addiction and a predatory drug dealer. We know it saved lives. You know, it stabilized lives. The Conservatives know that too. And their spokesperson has supported the program in principle.
I'd like to know one Conservative member that has agreed to what his words just were, that they've agreed to this, they've agreed to the safe supply, or this whole, that didn't make any sense to me at all.
But that doesn't mean that we tolerate diversion. We have taken steps with police. This is how the opposition knows about the issue with these pharmacies.
So friends, once again, the VPD police chief who just went on air last week did a huge day press release. The mayor was there, the police, the police chief of Vancouver is retiring next month. I thought I'd do a whole day press summary release and let you guys all know we're going to spend $5 million more. And then the freaking following week, I'm going to retire.
To investigate bad pharmacies, to ensure that that information is shared with police for prosecutions, to address issues of diversion. Now the health minister has made an important but difficult announcement to move to an exclusively witnessed program, which we know is going to make it harder for some people to access this program that we know could save lives, but which we have to do to address the issue of diversion.
This actually really affects me that you are going to punish the people that need the drugs that you've told them they need these medications. Now you're going to make it harder for them to actually access the real medication from the pharmacies because you don't trust the pharmacies anymore. That's what he just said. How does that make any sense? Please comment. Please comment. I don't get any comments. Any comment and subscribe. Please subscribe and comment. Please, if you don't like me, say something. Just someone comment, please. No one comments on my videos. Maybe they're afraid of me because I'm a big bad wolf.
Leader of the Official Opposition, supplemental.
Mr. Speaker, it's true that 16,328 people have lost their lives to overdose. That's true. But it's also true that the Safe Supply Program has put 22,416,000 doses into British Columbia and an unknown number of those into the hands of criminal activity. The report by this government shows that that is the facts. These drugs, of course, are also not safe. They are actually very dangerous drugs as well.
Facts.
Report clearly shows that this has been going on for years.
Too long.
The police reports have shown that this diverted supply into the hands of criminals has been going on for years.
110%.
And yet, as given those quotes, this has been denied by this government.
True.
The real question that the public is asking is who knew in advance how bad this situation was? When did they know about it? And quite frankly, the taxpayers want to know how much their money was wasted on drugs getting into criminals' hands. This is why, Mr. Speaker, the Premier must call a public inquiry and get answers to the public that demand to know how this government has been mistreating this file.
Premier.
Honourable Speaker, the risk of pharmacies diverting opioids existed before the prescribed alternative program. It exists after. The entity within the Ministry of Health that was set up.
He's lying.
Members, Premier has the floor.
The entity within the Ministry of Health that was set up to investigate pharmacies was set up in 2014 by the BC Liberal government because of issues related to the diversion of opioids. And so ensuring that that agency had the authority, was focusing on pharmacies and the issue and the risk of diversion was a priority for us. We ensured that they had the resources to do that. Resulted in a very significant investigation, which they were briefing police on. That's how the opposition knows about this. Has resulted in criminal investigations that are ongoing. With the College of Pharmacy to shut down bad actors. And the unfortunate and difficult but necessary decision to move to a witnessed-only program, which we know will compromise the access of people who need this program to stay alive, but we have to do to ensure that we're addressing the risk of diversion.
Member for Surrey Cloverdale.
Mr. Speaker, the Premier and his government want you to believe that this is a problem with bad pharmacies, that it's bad actors. But this isn't a problem with bad pharmacies. This is a problem with bad policy, and the bad actors are members of this government and bureaucrats working under the supervision of this Premier who have been gaslighting British Columbians for more than 2 years. Mr. Speaker, after years of downplaying and denying the significant diversion of so-called safe supply, the government's own leaked presentation reports that their publicly funded drug trafficking is widespread. Taxpayer-funded safe supply went from prescribing 577,000 pills in 2020 to more than 22 million pills and fentanyl patches in the last 2 years. This is increasing the risk of population-level harms with unknown quantities, Mr. Speaker, being trafficked provincially, nationally, and internationally. The public has a right to know, how could this happen? Now that the Premier recognizes his experiment has failed, when will he call a public inquiry?
So just so everyone's aware, I like her. She's cool. She's got fire in her belly. She speaks strong, and it's a pleasure to hear a strong woman fight for truth.
Mr. Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I think it's important to be clear. I canvassed this with the member for Surrey Cloverdale extensively in the estimates debates before the election. I acknowledge the risk of diversion is a serious issue. We were taking steps to ensure diversion, if it was taking place, was being addressed, resulted in dedicating a team within the Ministry of Health to investigate pharmacies, which is what the opposition has become aware of. It's led to criminal investigations. It is a serious matter. But on the issue of prescribed alternatives, I won't let the member shrink from her own record, because it's important to recognize that there's not a division in this House about the need for this program. February 17th on CKNW, the member said, "Conservatives, we know that there's a role for these drugs to be used to help people, to be titrated to other medications, to stabilize people." Well, I agree entirely. The unfortunate thing is some people are going to lose access to this program.
So, my friends, this is where I need to chime in, and this will be the last chime for the night. So, reality check. You have to talk, you have to work with the person on the street. You have to go where they are. You know, back in the day when we talk about Bill Wilson and Bob, Dr. Bob, and so anybody doesn't know Bill Wilson, he's a gentleman, he's a founder of Alcoholics Anonymous. The co-founder is a Dr. Bob. And when those two met each other as a result of just a coincidence happened, they met each other. And they were walking down the street in Akron, Ohio, and they were wondering, how are they going to figure out to help other people do what they've just done for each other? And that's when they walked down the street and they looked down the alley and they saw one alcoholic picking up another alcoholic. So the reality is it's not doctors, it's not nurses, it's not hired immigrant people to try to, you don't hire them to help these people get off of the drugs, off of the medication, onto this, you gotta hire people that understand, that have been there before. This is not working. So yes, the person, you're right, the person agreed to what you were saying, but the reality is like you get the person from the complete wasteland of being on an opiate, like crazy amounts, these people on the street, you get them to agree to go on Suboxone for a short period, 2, 3 months tops. Then you get them on a Sublocade shot for like a brief period, just a brief period. But during that time, you help them establish a new way of life. If you don't, and you're like me, and they just go to the hospital and they just want to give you more every month. Oh, you're doing good now, so we'll just give you another one. We'll just give you another one, because to them it's just more money. So more drugs out, more money to them. More drugs out, more money to them. More drugs out, more money to them. I hope people watch this.
Because of a difficult decision to move to witnessed ingestion only. And that's an unfortunate thing, but it's a necessary thing to address the issue of diversion.
Senator Cloverdale, supplemental.
Mr. Speaker, more gaslighting from a premier who fails to recognize his own failed experiment. For sure, there is a role for prescribed alternatives for drugs to help titrate and stabilize, but we're talking about a government program that has dumped millions of pills into the hands of criminals and drug traffickers, and I first raised the issue of diversion in this chamber on February 9th, 2023. That's more than 2 years ago. 2 years of flooding this province with hydromorphone, a highly addictive opioid, 5 times more powerful than morphine. 2 years of fueling the fentanyl trade with program participants trading their dillies for street drugs. 2 years of taxpayer dollars being used to enrich criminal organizations, putting money into the hands of drug dealers that have killed 49,000 Canadians. Mr. Speaker, British Columbians have the right to know, how did this happen? When will the Premier call for a public inquiry?
Premier.
I'm sure the member didn't do it intentionally, Honourable Speaker, but she conflated the toxic street drugs like fentanyl and carfentanil with the prescribed alternative program supervised by nurses and doctors. We've lost more than 16,000 people to the toxic drug crisis. And the prescribed alternative program, what I understood the member previously supported when she said the government has introduced a safe supply where they're giving hydromorphone and other drugs, slow-release morphine, they give it to individuals to help them get off illicit drugs, and that we need to continue exploring. Or when she said, this government was said to be exploring options for pharmaceutical alternatives to illicit drugs, and that's what they should be doing. That's October 26th, 2023. As recently as February, supported the program. It's an important program to save lives, but that doesn't mean that we tolerate.
Premier will continue.
Doesn't mean that we tolerate diversion. And to prevent diversion, we have to take the unfortunate but necessary step of moving to a witnessed-only.
Wow, he's a
Members.
piece of poo.
Premier.
Moving to a witnessed-only program, which will restrict access to the program for some people who are struggling with addiction, especially in rural areas. But we have to take that step in order to ensure that the public is protected. And we'll continue to support the ongoing police investigation, the college investigation into these pharmacies as best we can.
Why don't you just...
Leader of the
Anyways, friends, I really want to say thank you for watching, and I appreciate it. Please like, please subscribe, please comment. Let me know what you think. If you got the answer, if you don't have the answer. I know I got the answer, and that's why I'm doing these videos. I'm just trying to get more information out to as many people as possible, because I hate it when people drive down the street and they say, "Oh, look at that poor piece of," because they're not. They're those people on the street. It's not their fault. It might be their fault that they went down a road that they shouldn't have gone down, but once you get to that place, it's not their fault, and the government needs to come and help. God bless.